Good morning. My name is Mary Malone from Coldwell Banker Realty and the Lux Service Group. I am here this morning with my go-to septic guy, Bob Osborne of Castle Septic. Bob, tell me a little bit about what you're doing today.
Today we're doing a septic inspection for a potential buyer. It's an internal septic inspection, and I'll take you through the steps of how we do that and try to determine whether the septic is functioning the way it's supposed to or not. The first thing that we do before we even come to the house for the septic inspection is visit the health department to find out what records they have. That'll help tell us what's here, if any repairs were done in the past or things like that. That was step one. After that, we came to this house. We located where the septic tank was, which is right there. This particular one has a shrub right next to it, which will need to be removed because the roots from the shrub will eventually find their way into the tank. So once we found the tank, we then found the outlet of the tank by digging. We dug down to the outlet, ran an inline camera down through the conveyance line to check the condition of the conveyance line. And that conveyance line leads us to the distribution box, which is out where they're standing right there.
I have a couple of questions for you. One of the major components of a home we know, and a very expensive one, is the septic. And if I go on a listing appointment and I know the septic's older, meaning it may be original, built in the 70s, 60s, 80s, I typically get the response when I talk with a seller. I typically get the response of, my septic is fine. Somebody comes and pumps it every couple of years and they tell me it works well.
Correct.
What kind of a response should I have to that as a homeowner?
A typical homeowner really won't know they have a septic issue unless it backs up into the house.
Okay.
And by the time it gets to that point, it's been a problem for a long time.
Okay.
It's just starting to show its face. So that would be the typical response. You really wouldn't know you're having a problem until you get inside the components to find out if they're actually draining the way they're supposed to.
Okay, so pumping doesn't really tell you everything about the septic.
Not at all. Pumping is just a maintenance item that you need to do to get the solids out of the tank so that the solids don't build up too high and leave the tank and go to the field and clog the field up.
A second question,
Yes.
How should I respond to a homeowner who says we only have 2 people that are living in the home, so my septic should be okay?
Well, the number of people living in a home does put less stress on the septic system, but it doesn't necessarily mean that nothing happened to it over the years. Components of a septic are made of concrete, some of them, and concrete does degrade over time. And things like a baffle, if a baffle degrades and then lets solids go out to the field, it can clog up the field. So the number of people really won't have anything to do with that.
I usually use an analogy, and I want you to correct me if I'm wrong. For those buyers who know nothing about a septic, or even a homeowner who knows nothing about their septic, I usually compare it to a car. I'm like, a car will live a certain amount of time. There are components that you need to switch out, like tires.
Yes.
So, and you also have to give it an oil change, like pumping a septic. Switching out the tires is like putting in a new distribution box. They only work for a period of time. They do degrade. Is that correct?
That is correct. There's a septic tank, there's a conveyance line, there's a distribution box, and there's lateral pipes in a typical system. And yes, over time, they can all degrade and have problems. So that is a very good analogy.
What's the most expensive part of a septic when you say your septic failed?
The absorption area, which is where the pipes go out. The pipes have holes in them. The sewage drops down through the pipes into the earth, gets filtered by stone and sand, and goes back into the earth, and we actually drink it again. It goes down into the water table. But when that needs replacement, that's the very expensive part of a septic system. So we've run our camera down through the lateral pipes to locate where they are. If you can see them over on the other side of the vegetation, what that tells us is all of this large vegetation is sitting on top of the lateral pipe, which will also mean that roots will get down into the lateral pipes, potentially clog things up and cause problems further down the road. There shouldn't be any rooty vegetation on top of the septic system. Right, so what we've done is we've run the camera from the septic tank down through the conveyance line. We located the distribution box, and we're now cameraing out the lateral pipe.
Okay.
The sludge has gotten down into the distribution box, because the outlet baffles deteriorate.
Okay.
And that can also clog up the holes in the lateral pipes and get down into the stone, clog the stone up, and then the water that comes in will not percolate down through. It builds up, and then you have a failed system.
Okay.
So we'll know more of that later on in a little while.
Okay.
And then this is a hydraulic load test because the home was vacant. So we have to add a prescribed number of gallons per day into the system for 2 days and check it that way.
How long does a home need to be vacant in order for you to do the hydraulic load
7
test?
days.
7 days.
Or minimal use.
Okay.
So if it's a 4-bedroom house and one person lives here, we can do a hydraulic load test then also.
Where did the name Castle Septic come from?
What?
When we were first starting business, I didn't want to use my own name because of the thought of someday selling the business, which didn't happen. But so Castle, just your home is your castle. That's where it came from.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a couple of examples of taglines I think that you should consider after Castle Septic. All right, and you have to tell me what you think. Pumps for your dumps. Crappy jobs, no probs. If it's brown, we're around. Who is what we do? And we won't quit until we get your... Which one do you think you should use as your tagline?
Actually, none.
Dang it!
No. Your is my bread and butter.
So if you have any questions about your septic system, what I'd like you to do is reach out to Bob Osborne. Bob, what's the best number to get a hold of you at?
908-995-1000.
And
Castle Septic.
What's your website?
CastleSeptic.com.
Good to know. All right, thanks for joining me today. Don't forget to follow me on YouTube and call me with any questions.
Thank you.